Hello, I'm Kathleen Hall of CRM Marketing Services, and I'll be your host and moderator for today's webcast, Transforming Finance Functions into Future Ready Powerhouses with the Power of AI. Finance is at a turning point. Traditional efficiency gains have reached their limit, and the next frontier is about reimagining the function to create value. With genAI and agentic systems, finance can move beyond transactional tasks to become the driver of business transformation. In this webinar, brought to you by CIO, PwC, and Microsoft, expert panel will discuss how GenAI is reshaping the role of CFOs and finance teams by shifting the focus from manual transactional tasks to deliver forward-looking insights and drive smarter business decisions, and how frontier finance can help reimagine finance strategies and operating models for the human and agent era, where AI agents and people work side by side to deliver greater agility and impact. Well, joining us today to unpack this idea further, we have an expert panel: Diego Hane, PwC partner in data and AI, Jim Berris, PwC partner in finance solutions, and Corey Hernzerich, senior director of frontier finance transformation at Microsoft. But before we dive into the conversation, I'd love for you to introduce yourselves and share a little bit more about your perspective. Diego, did you want to go first?
Hello, I'm Diego Hane. I'm a partner in PwC in the data and AI practice. I spend a lot of my time helping organizations, especially in the finance organization, adopt AI from a technology enablement perspective, building agents, orchestrating them, and making sure that that happens in a governed and responsible way. Happy to be with you today.
Thank you. Jim.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Kathleen. It's great to be here with all of you today. My name is Jim Berris. I am a partner within our finance solutions practice at PwC. I spend a lot of my time focused on how to help our customers and help finance organizations undergo change. A lot of what I look at is order to cash and other back-end processes, but how change, whether that change is new technologies such as AI, regulatory change, new product launches and product changes, impact the finance function, and work very closely with colleagues like Diego on the technology side of the house as the functional side to his technology side. And very happy to be here with you today talking about how AI is changing finance.
Thank you. And Corey.
Yeah, thank you. I echo that. I'm so pleased to be able to be here with all of you, and especially alongside Jim and Diego. It's an honor. I'm grateful for PwC for the invitation. And I work at Microsoft. I get to have a front row seat to our own transformation in our finance division. I've been leading our Frontier Finance group now for about 8 years, and we've seen a lot of progress in that 8 years. We've seen big changes. We are a customer of Microsoft ourselves. We're a customer in many cases of PwC, and we are trying to push our finance operations to the frontier, push the boundaries of what's possible. So it's great to be here, and I'm excited to share some of the things that we're doing ourselves.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much for being here. So finance has long been focused on efficiency and cost optimization, but today speed, agility, and intelligence are becoming the new competitive edge. So my first question is, how do you see the role of finance evolving in this AI-driven world? Jim, did you want to start us off?
Yeah, absolutely, Kathleen. So the focus of finance on decreasing the percentage of time spent on automatable tasks and therefore increasing this percent of time spent on insights, it really isn't new. If I look over the past 10 years as an example, we've seen finance move away from an exclusively back office function that's looking at historical data to one that is much more forward-looking, partnering with the business in order to help the business make more intelligent decisions. As an example, in our 2024 Finance Effectiveness Benchmarking Report, we actually saw that over the past 10 years, the percent of time finance spends on automatable tasks has already decreased from 35% to 19%. And the time spent generating insights has increased from 27% to 33%. So with that context, I don't necessarily think that the role of finance is evolving. But that being said, how finance works is rapidly changing. And the new finance operating model pairs human expertise with AI agents to really scale capacity, accelerate insights, and translate data into decision-ready insights to help the business make smarter decisions in a proactive manner rather than a reactive manner. Corey, what are you seeing from this standpoint at Microsoft?
Yeah, the same. I love the way you teed that up, Jim. I would echo everything you said as well. I think that proactivity is super important. I think, much less reactive today than we were even just a few years ago, and we have room to grow on that front. I love the way the question teed this up in general. This shift into speed and agility has always been a core vision and goal of ours in Microsoft Finance Division. Our business moves fast, and we need to keep up, and we need to lead the change for a company. And so everything that we do, from building data platforms to our use of reporting tools to the way that we use AI, is really about driving that speed. The agility portion also speaks to me. We really are able to build a lot of our own solutions today that can help us really keep up with the pace of change and to be able to deliver things in real time. So those are a couple thoughts that come to mind. I will just also mention, I think the question mentioned we're moving from, cost optimization, efficiency. Those continue to be very important. Just to set the context, Amy Hood, our CFO, still holds us accountable for cost optimization and efficiency as well, but certainly expects more in terms of speed and agility.
Well, and Corey, I love the graph that I know Amy is very proud of and the rest of the finance team at Microsoft is very proud of, that shows the dramatic growth of revenue at Microsoft over the past, trying to remember if the graph is 15 or 20 years, but shows that the cost of finance has remained relatively flat throughout that time of dramatic growth. How are you seeing that play out over, we'll call it the next 5 years, with all of the AI growth and investment in data centers that is happening at Microsoft?
Yeah, thank you. It is a great chart. It just really underpins this focus that we have on empowering our people to do their very best work and to focus on the highest value tasks. It does reflect, I think, over the past, call it decade, 300% growth in Microsoft's revenue and only a 30% growth in our finance headcount, which is a pretty significant shift from the prior decade, where we saw those two, business growth and finance headcount growth, growing closer to one-to-one parity. And so that certainly enables all kinds of opportunities for our finance people, for us to lean in and use technology to fill in that gap and help our people focus on those most important tasks. Going forward, to answer your question specifically, we need this more than ever. We don't see Microsoft's growth slowing down. We're becoming larger. We're becoming more complex. We're moving into new markets, and we don't have a huge growth in our headcount. So we will lean on technology to really streamline the way that people work. It really does set us up well for this era of building a frontier firm.
And I think from that technology perspective, Corey, Microsoft has a really well-defined suite of products. We are seeing clients adopting Copilot and introducing in finance that productivity gain. We are starting to see other clients that have to move into that, towards that frontier finance evolution, to start to build more into Foundry, those agentic workforces, right? We see that in order to do that, at some point, clients are going to have to work more on the data state, introducing Fabric, OneLake, making sure that the data is ready to kind of fulfill AI. There's going to start to be more work around ontologies and the context engineering. At the end, data, tables is good information, but you really need to bring that business knowledge into it in order to start moving towards the stage 3 of the frontier firm. But Microsoft has a really kind of a vertical stack that can help clients move into that direction. It's great to see.
That's great, thank you. So I wanted to talk a bit about frontier finance specifically. Can you tell us a bit about what this offers viewers that they can't find elsewhere? Corey, maybe I could start with you here.
Yeah, of course. So the term frontier and frontier finance specifically is pretty new. Microsoft, I think, has coined this term in our Work Trends Index report in 2025. Just to break down what that report basically articulated, you can go look it up, but it talks about this three-phase approach to really move into the frontier, to become a frontier firm. And it talks about our use of assistants and agents to help us do our work more effectively. So phase one is a human with an assistant. For us, that means Copilot. Phase two means human agent teams. That means a human overseeing specific agents who can go do tasks. And phase three is human-led and agent-operated. This is where agents become more autonomous, where agents can actually do more and more of our work. I would say for us, we are firmly probably in phase two. If I had to choose one, we've been using Copilot for 2.5 years. We have been using these assistants to help us do our jobs, and we have many agents who can do tasks under the supervision of our people. Our next phase will be moving into this more human-led, agent-operated, as we find ways to stitch these agents together to do more compound tasks. And that's the excitement of what pushes the boundaries of truly what's possible in finance.
Yeah, and I will say, if folks have not read that report yet, it is worth checking it out, giving it a read. I think it's 8 or 10 pages long, very much worth the time. The thing that I think it's super interesting with this, with finance specifically, is when you start to look across all of the sub-processes that exist within finance and analyze not only how that work is completed, but what the purpose is of that work. And we've started to go through at that sub-process level. And really what we identified is that finance processes are not going to be a one-size-fits-all. You aren't going to have this, every single finance process will be agent-led or agent-driven. What we found is that finance processes will typically fall into 3 categories: human-led, agent-assisted, and fully agent-driven. And ultimately, different parts of the finance organization are going to fall into different categories. That being said, those that are human-led will still very much have an AI enablement in some of the day-to-day tasks. But if you look at, I'll say, one side of the scale and corporate finance teams, a large portion of their sub-processes, they're still going to need to be human-led. There are a subset of those that are going to be agent-assisted, but there is things that happen within that team and within that function that very much need the human insights and the human intelligence and the decision-making ingrained in those processes. But on the opposite side of the scale, look at maybe shared services or an outsourced services organization. These are way better candidates to be fully agent-driven or agent-assisted, where, to Corey's point, you can take some of the back office processes and start to automate those, get the manual tasks out of the finance person's hands and get those into the technology to free up the time of the finance person. So really, a big part of establishing the new finance operating model is going to be defining which processes you're looking at changing. And if you want to drive true change and at scale, not looking at automating a step in a process, but really redefining the entire process with AI at the center. Diego, I know that's something that you have done and have thoughts on. What are you thinking?
Yeah, and maybe it helps the audience as well to see where they are today, right? We see mainly 3 approaches to kind of go to the frontier finance, introduce the agentic workforce, right? To your point, Jim, you don't have to start with all the processes. You shouldn't, right? It's about picking which one is the best to start with. We see, as I said, 3 things. We see some companies that they don't want to, they are having second thoughts. It's like, should we start now or should we wait till we redefine our business process? We know we have some process debt. We don't want to start yet. We don't think we are ready. There's no right or wrong. That's one type of situation we see. Another one is we have this business process today and we want to introduce AI because we know we can get like a 50% savings, right? Or even more if we were introducing AI for some of these steps that are heavily manual. We need to go through a lot of information or create new information, and we can do that much faster in today's world, right? That's okay. It's going to introduce kind of a substantial savings, and why to leave it on the table, right? The recommended approach, though, where we see clients having the most success is when you redefine your business process, and as Jim was saying, but with AI at the core. So you are really leveraging the tools you have today to bend the shape a little bit and think about it differently, right? That's the recommended approach that we would suggest to our clients.
Thank you so much. So, how can PwC and Microsoft together help clients accelerate their journey to becoming this frontier firm that you've been discussing, Jim?
Yeah, I will say part of this really depends on where a company is at on their journey. And we hit on this a little bit before, but underlying data, how well defined is your underlying data? But we typically look at agentic reinvention at scale across 4 different pillars. The first pillar being transformation and governance, the second being accelerated design and deployment, the third being agentic orchestration and monitoring, and the fourth being people and culture. So maybe I'll hit on transformation governance and a little bit about design, hand it over to Diego, and then Corey, you can talk a bit about people and culture. But where we've seen the most success is with transformation and governance being driven by an AI COE. So this is a center of excellence that will look to take a programmatic approach. And this applies across the entire organization, not just finance, but is looking at AI adoption more broadly. This is where you're going to look at things like controls, compliance, the responsible use of AI, and really driving from the center to help mitigate tech debt, and reduce silos and enable solutions that can scale across multiple different processes and multiple different functions. That leads into accelerated design and deployment. And this is really looking at how are you designing your technology solutions and how are you prioritizing what you're going to do first so that you can prioritize things that are going to support scale rather than creating point solutions that can only be applicable to a person or a process within an organization. Diego, do you want to talk about this a bit from a deployment standpoint?
Sure. Thank you, Jim. So what we are doing is that in this process, we are, as PwC, reinventing the way that we deliver services as well. So when you think about blueprinting and redefining that business process, we have created our own AI assistant that is accelerating that path to don't start from scratch. We have those standard business processes, but then through workshops, we are having that AI listening in and helping us get to that to be model faster. Once we do that, we also have reusable components to build it. What we are seeing to work really nicely is in this area of AI, have a business architect, but also the AI architect working together. Because the business, that person from the client is going to know it better than anybody else. We are going to pair with a functional expert, but then how do we make sure that the technology is building it the best way, right? So that is from a development perspective and deployment. When we think about orchestration, we are working with Microsoft and their products. So think about Copilot, think about Foundry, think about Fabric, right? A lot of the finance organizations live in a multi-system kind of a landscape ecosystem, right? So what we have done is we have been working with Microsoft, and together with Foundry, we also have as a PwC an AgentOS capability. What that is doing best is to connect SAP, Microsoft, Salesforce, other ecosystems, agents, right, in the area of the agent to agent communication to make sure that there's a governance and a monitoring layer across the board, and all that can run natively into the Azure stack, right? And I would say last but not least, responsible AI is embedded into everything we do from a trust perspective. And I'll pass it over to Corey for the people and culture.
Yeah, thank you so much, Diego. And I think you touched on well. I think what Microsoft can do obviously is supporting that platform, one of the most robust platforms on the planet to do this end to end. But specifically on the culture and people front, that's also important. I'm very close to that for our finance org, and I think the way that Satya Nadella, our CEO, has brought a growth mindset to our company has changed the way that we work fundamentally. It's changed and it has enabled the products and services that you see rolling out from our company. But more than that, for us, for my team, it changes the way that we look at every one of these opportunities. And I would say we've changed the way that we approach challenges now. We have finance people leaning in to be the change agents now, to re-architect ideal processes, to find bottlenecks and blockers, and to find ways and to reinvent ways to actually go tackle those changes. We are enabling all of our people to build agents, to become fluent in AI this year. And we're enabling our people to be able to share best practices. And we're recognizing and celebrating successes, recognizing quick wins and these change agents. That cultural shift is super important, not just at Microsoft. And you won't just see it through the products and services that Microsoft creates, but we can certainly help partner with others to show them some of the things that we're learning about building the culture that enables this kind of frontier finance transformation.
That was great. Thank you so much. So I'd love to talk a bit about examples of customers that you've helped using this approach. Jim.
Yeah, I think the customer I'd love to talk a bit about it is Microsoft, because as folks can hopefully tell, we've worked very closely with Microsoft. We are a strong user of Microsoft technologies, but we helped Microsoft identify and enable some of their initial finance use cases and prioritize the use cases that we thought had value across multiple parts of the finance function. And as part of that work, Diego and his team actually created the AI factory that Microsoft uses within their finance organization to drive that scale and enable the solution across multiple use cases, well beyond the initial use case that we solved for. Diego, do you want to talk a bit about that AI factory?
Sure. This goes back to kind of early 2023, right? Microsoft was really leading the pack, identifying the use cases, but then we were quickly building together POCs and MVPs, right? So we started there, and really quickly we went beyond chat, right? When all these LLM, genAI was really focusing on chat capabilities, we were starting to build kind of an AI factory that had a front end and a back end capability, right? So think about embedding all the business process into a front end application that is running all the genAI and LLM in the background, right? So that was being ahead of the game when others were leveraging kind of a more basic chat capabilities. So then fast forward a little bit, and we really focus on building that AI factory that the whole objective was to reduce the cost per unit of enabling those use cases, right? So build patterns in a way that whenever you are building it the second time, the cost is going dramatically down till you get to a marginal cost of development, right? And as Corey was saying before, we were able to together build that AI factory, a composable kind of a self-service capability that now Microsoft is doing that effort to really push the boundaries again and be ahead of the game, right, compared to others, focusing on the culture and people. So now it's about enabling the business stakeholders to be able to build by themselves on top of that AI factory, so they don't have to rely 100% on the kind of IT engineers that have a lot of other things to do as well, right? So it's a win-win. So it's beautiful to see how Microsoft is focusing on that upskilling and really enabling the business to build AI solutions by themselves.
Yeah, and I would just jump in and say, we really appreciate PwC's partnership on some of our very first GenAI solutions. I think maybe the first that we had in production. It was, just to give you some context for those listening on the line here. We came up with, I think, initially 130 great ideas for how we would use GenAI in our processes, and we boiled those down to the top 12. We built business cases for the 12 and took them to Amy and shortlisted the top 6. And one of those 6 projects was what we today call the Deal Document Inspector. Basically, it was a compliance project. We needed to review deal documents, contracts, addendums, things like that, and actually really review them, compare them against other documents, compare them against our policies, translate documents in some cases, and be able to do these compliance checks at speed and be able to enable our sellers to close deals, make sure that those deals are compliant. PwC came and helped us build that initial solution, really pioneering the use of these new tools, Azure OpenAI Service and many others, parts of the Azure stack. to deliver the solution. I think we built it in something like 3 months, which is pretty remarkable. We learned a lot, and then, as Diego mentioned, then scaled it and figured out how to turn this into a platform so that we could replicate it with diminishing costs going forward and drive high ROI. So, really great win. Taught us a lot about generative AI, and I think it was a good victory for us both.
That's a great example. Thank you. So, looking ahead, how do you see finance becoming a strategic driver of enterprise-wide value rather than just seen as a back office function? Corey, I don't know if you wanted to expand on that.
Yeah, happy to touch on it briefly. I'd love to see Jim and Diego what they think. I think they see a lot more customers, a lot more people. But for us, this focus on elevating the role of finance has been a focus of our CFO, Amy Hood, since she became CFO in 2013. So it's been 12 years now. She has really been elevating the role of finance. I would say even some of that predates her. Because 20 years ago, we started outsourcing some of the transactional back office finance functions and started hiring more MBAs, I think, to run some of our FP&A processes and partner with businesses. And we started, in some ways, even pushing this frontier back then, even though we didn't call it that. We started asking ourselves what we want full-time people focused on. And so these concepts now that we talked about, human-led, with an assistant, with an AI assistant, or humans delegating to agents as part of the frontier phases. We started thinking about that with outsource agents, you could say, 20 years ago. So that has definitely shifted the way that we think about the role of our finance people. And as we've really leaned in on technology over the past 8 years, our focus is to make sure that our people are spending their time, their valuable time, on the highest value work. And everything else we want to streamline with technology. We want to streamline with AI. In many cases, it's a non-AI solution even, just building great data platforms, just helping to build better reporting so that we can get our people out of some of those very basic tasks. Instead, we focus our people's attention on things for which there's no easy answer, on agility, on speed, on making decisions, getting great insights, helping to move our business forward as we open new markets and as we chart new territory in this new era of AI and agents and services that Microsoft provides. So it's an exciting era. It's amazing. I think we've learned a lot over the past 20 years, but certainly over the past 2 or 3 years, we've learned more than maybe the prior years all combined. But Diego and James, I'd love to hear what you're seeing as well.
Yeah, and I know I hit on this a little bit already, but I really think it's the shift from reactive to proactive, where finance is no longer backwards looking, where they're getting to month end, closing the books and answering the question of, so what happened over the past month, or at quarter end, what happened over the past 3 months? But really, finance is there to enable real-time insights to help the business make better decisions. And you may be asking, okay, so like what do you mean? How does that work? Look at tasks and processes that are typically part of the close process. And I'll use maybe cost allocation and amortization as an example. You may get to the end of the month, you've got a step in your close process that says, hey, I need to identify any POs that came in over the past 30 days that need to be allocated to different business units, or that cost needs to be amortized across 12 months. Rather than doing that as part of your close process, that is something where the technology can identify, hey, you've received this PO. This PO looks like it fits these criteria. These criteria mean that these costs should be allocated across these business units, and based on the start date and the end date should be amortized across this period. Would you like to do that? Say yes, and that's now done. And it's done in near real time on a daily basis, done every night. So you're no longer waiting until the end of the month and close to have that view of what's actually going on within all of your GL accounts, but rather you're getting much, much closer to this idea of a continual close, where every morning the finance team arrives and they have a complete picture of what happened and can better drive insights about what is going to happen by not waiting until the end of the month, not relying on heavily manual processes, but really enabling time, capacity, and the right data to help drive the business to make the right future looking decisions rather than just looking about what happened over the past month or 3 months.
And
Right? Think about that vision. That really seems like finance is a strategic driver of enterprise-wide value as you're automating away those back office functions.
I think, Jim, even a little bit of a different perspective. Like when I think about AI adoption and pushing the AI kind of agenda at the organization, like if I look 10 years back, right? Finance was always there at the forefront of building a finance data warehouse, building a finance data lake, the reporting, right? As Corey was mentioning before, some of the ML and the specific things for forecasting and other things, right? So I think it has been always kind of pushing the boundaries of that data tech kind of agenda. And now it's interesting to see how many of the conversations you and I are having with our customers are starting in finance, right? About AI, Gen AI adoption. So maybe there's that other angle to the enterprise-wide value creation that is pushing that AI agenda in the organization.
That was great. Thank you. So, finally, if finance leaders in the audience were to take one action in the next 12 months to prepare for an AI native finance, what should it be?
And honestly, if anyone's taking one action in the next 12 months, they're going to be behind and playing catch up for the next couple of years. This is really something that you can start today, you can start now. I mean, as an organization, I think the first thing to do is look at your platform, your processes, and your delivery models. If a company has a relatively standardized data platform, it's going to be possible to create your first agents and get those agents into production in as little as 30 days. But even outside of that enterprise lens or finance wide lens, the thing that I would urge everyone to do is start doing something. If you have questions about what this could look like, yes, reach out, but at the same time, ask Copilot. Have a conversation with Copilot about what frontier finance means and what it could mean to your organization. Do something that's more personal to you and go into Copilot Studios and build your first agent to help you with a task that you have every single day that you know you need to do, but you know it's just a drain on your time, and see how you can use the technology to help impact your day to day. The technology can really help you with the art of the possible and code generate ideas with you after a couple of prompts. And now I'm not saying that you need to go get creative with your book of records and start doing creative things in your GL. That's not at all what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is start somewhere and try automating a few of your daily tasks and see what kind of an impact it has on you and your own personal productivity. Because it's really once you get into the technology, start using the technology, get comfortable with it, that your mind starts to open to all of the different opportunities that are out there and all of the different things that you can do for yourself, for your team, and for your organization.
Thank you. Corey.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Jim. I think I would think about doing a little bit more probably than one thing in the next 12 months. In fact, I would say I was just thinking about it and thinking, over the next 12 days, I would probably think about like, man, what's my vision as a finance leader? What's my vision? How do I get my leadership team all bought into this? Let's decide now that we are going to become a frontier finance organization. In the next 12 weeks, I think you can probably do an exercise to identify which processes are your biggest bottlenecks, biggest pain points. In the next 12 weeks, I would also start a process to really start a grassroots movement, get your people trained up using tools like Copilot and starting building agents, as Jim said. And then, maybe over the next 12 months, you could have a goal to drive so much efficiency with agents that you build with partners like PwC, maybe by yourselves. We have a mix of all kinds of things ourselves. But when we went out and picked those 6 initial projects, that was our goal within 12 months to deliver 6 high ROI Gen AI projects. And we delivered not only 6, we delivered probably closer to 20 within the first year. But it starts small. I'd say start where you are. do something. If you only could do one thing, just do that thing. Learn from that, but do it faster than 12 months, probably. That would be my admonition, I guess.
And Corey, something I just want to plug really quick, the Microsoft Learning site. I think it's learn.microsoft.com. You said train your people. That is a great place to start. There are a wealth of knowledge and information that's available through the Microsoft Learning site, and highly recommend that as a place people start if they do want to start to learn more and upskill their people.
Yeah, I agree. We use that heavily ourselves, as you can all imagine. And then I think the other thing I would add, we have our people training each other, sharing best practices with each other, and showing how they use the tech. That really accelerates adoption. So,
yep. Actually have a session later today with our local finance team all around vibe coding. And we're all going to get together in a conference room and create some cool stuff.
Excellent. Diego.
I think it's all about adoption. I would say there's a bottom-up, citizen-led adoption kind of a play. And I would say if you already have the tools and you are lucky to have them, next week just create a Copilot agent a day. Just play with that, right? And maybe the second week, go into the Copilot Studio and do a little bit of a more advanced agent in the second week, right? And those things are really going to help you make your life easier and put time where you'd rather spend it. If you are a power user and you have Foundry, I would say go even kind of beyond and try to identify something with your colleagues where, let's say, connect to another database, a pricing database, whatever it is. It's even going to let you automate and provide intelligence to a kind of a broader kind of part of the business process. Do that if you are a power user. Let's say that you are not having the tools today. We are really happy, Microsoft and PwC, to help you kind of solve for that, right? And I would say that from a top-down approach, if we really think about an AI transformation, let's say maybe the first 6 months, find that kind of initiative that is really going to change your business process, and you can start introducing that agentic workforce that everybody's talking about. Find one initiative for the first half of the year and another one for the second half, right? So I think Microsoft has really the best vertical solution in the market to get into this AI journey, and we are happy to help.
Thank you. That's a great note to end things on. That's all we've got time for today's webinar, Transforming Finance Functions into Future-Ready Powerhouses with the Power of AI. I'd like to thank my guests, Jim and Diego from PwC and Corey from Microsoft. And of course, thank you to our audience for listening. For more information on this topic, please visit the resources section on your screen. I'm Kathleen Moore. Goodbye.